Hi, my name is Hayden Russell, and this is my presentation of the psychology of the several of the members of the Alien 3 cast, or at least the characters. Now, the Alien 3 that I went over is the 2003 Special Edition. This movie and its characters take place on Furina 161, also known as Fury 161. It is a very desolate and hostile environment. It is filled to the brim with maggots, abandoned facilities, and just overflowing gunk. Like, it is a horrid place to live. Well, our protagonist, Lieutenant Ellen Ripley, is. Well, she was on there for a second. She's our protagonist. She's known for being an alien killing machine, which is extraordinary considering she has no real military training. Her lieutenant title is mostly just that, the title, and she's a pilot. So, on top of this, everything that gets close to her, or well, everyone, tends to keel over. They don't last very long. Whether this is due to dumb luck, just the aliens in general, it happens. She's survived things I would consider ludicrous to survive. Like, how? I believe she suffers from PTSD due to the amount of things that she has survived. If you've seen any of the Alien films, you know it gets a bit ridiculous at times. Let's recount what she has lost. She lost her original crew. She almost got suffocated to death in the first movie. In the start of the second one, you realize she's been asleep in cryostasis for so long that her daughter has grown up without her and has died. All the crew from the previous movie is dead, so the only thing she has is her cat, which was a pain in the neck in the first movie. She lost her adopted daughter, Newt, from Aliens, or Alien 2, just to distinguish them, and Corporal Hicks, who was as close to a love interest as she could get at that time. He was also one of the few competent people. She also formed an unlikely friendship with the android Bishop, who is also dead, keeping with the theme of losing everything to traumatic experiences. Now, I believe that Ripley has PTSD for some time. She's shown to have recurring nightmares of the experiences she's gone through. She's shown to be a bit more aggressive in certain situations than would normally call for. She has a habit of assuming the worst in a form of pessimism. I think I pronounced that right. And she displays paranoia and jumping to conclusions. Which, if I were in her situation, I probably would too. If it looks like an alien head, you probably want to destroy it. Now we move on to Dr. Clemens. Clemens is a previous addict to morphine and alcohol. He's the only medical professional on Fury, or Furina, whichever you prefer. I prefer Fury, easier to say. He's technically free. He is no longer an inmate. He is the medical officer. He's the only one there that knows anything about medicine in any capacity. And he's willing to stay there. He was free several years ago, but he stayed because it was the only place where he could still continue to practice his craft. After a accident revolving around his profession where he got incredibly drunk. He had a very long shift, and then an accident happened, and he had to be called back in. Well, he was intoxicated. So he didn't prescribe the right amount of medicine or dosages on basically anything, and a lot of people died. As a result, his medical license was either provoked or downgraded to the point where it didn't count for anything. He was sentenced to 7 years on Fury 161, and he continued to stay there because that was just what he was good at. He develops sexual relationships with Ripley fairly early on. He's also the only one to not isolate themselves from her. He's a medical officer. He has a certain amount of things he has to do when a crash victim arrives. He was addicted to alcohol and morphine. His 7 years in prison got him clean, or so he claims. It is shown later on that he does shoot himself up with some medication. We're not exactly told what. He says it's his own special cocktail. I think that's dangerous, but he's trained, apparently. He also, if my memory serves, he also does take in a little bit of alcohol. Not a whole lot, just a little. He has access to all of Furina's 161's medical supplies. Everything they have, he has access to. No one else does. The fact that they still have pain medication that can work on a severely injured person, especially considering he was a former addict, in my opinion, is a fairly good sign. He is pretty much reformed. Might be a little tendency to slip, but he's not unhealthy. He's, well, considering the rest of the inmates, he's fairly normal. I believe that his lapse into indulging in painkillers was due to the stress of his job. He was apparently something of a medical prodigy, and he just couldn't keep up with it. There was too much strain on him. People do strange things when they're stressed. Moving on, we move on to Dylan, my favorite character in the game. Movie. He, in my opinion, is the only character actually worth paying attention to for being a character. Ripley herself is kind of hysterical. She's flopping all over the place throughout the movie. If you've all seen it, you know why. But then we have Dylan, who is stable. He's relatively calm. His character remains the same. He is a self-admitting rapist and murderer. He's also the spiritual leader of the inmates, who've all taken on religion rather heavily. He is very no-nonsense about pretty much anything. He's also the peacekeeper, and has a certain disregard for the two custodians left on Fury. All the power really resides with him, because all the prisoners listen to him. The custodians are literally there because the company requires someone to be there. He is the main reason, I would argue, that most of the prisoners stayed on Fury. Because now they had their own religion, cult, if you want to call it that. So they just decided to stay there and wait out the end of the universe. A little bit apocalyptic, but that's what they decided. I believe he has a little bit of an antisocial personality disorder. I don't think it's very, a strong one, but he makes it very clear that if you are not part of his brotherhood, church, cult, he doesn't particularly care what happens to you. He doesn't care what happens to the custodians. In fact, he goes out of his way to insult the lesser ranked, whose name currently escapes me. He's pretty much an idiot, however. He was out of his way just to ruin his day. Not to the extent some of the other prisoners do, but enough to where it's noticeable. Ripley is very, I would argue, suicidal in this movie, and she does not have the strength to do it herself. It's understandable. Primal instinct, survival. She asks Dylan to kill her. At one point. Actually, I think it was several. Each time, he responds with something along the lines of, when we kill the alien, also referred to as the dragon by Gallic, who we will discuss later, when we kill that, then you won't have to worry about it anymore. I'll take care of it. Now, he is a convicted murderer, felon, not a very nice person in terms, But it is, however, worth noting that he does have a moral character. He is very, very strict on his religion. When several of the inmates attempt to rape Ripley, he busts out of nowhere with a pipe and proceeds to beat up at least 3 of them, claiming he needed to re-educate the brothers. To me, this speaks enough about him that he's more concerned with their souls, I suppose, than with how they are physically. He is also the driving force behind anything productive that the inmates do. If they do anything useful at all, it's usually because he's behind it, he's the driving force. They don't have much regard for their custodians at all. Now we come to Golic, the smelly, disliked murderer who I believe has a very mild form of schizophrenia at the beginning. He is not able to process that the other prisoners hate him. He smells, his teeth are is bad, like really bad, like it's... Ugh. He's just strange, odd. All the prisoners or inmates that are still on Fury are all convicted murderers and rapists. However, Golic is noted as his victims are usually left in a much more gruesome state than anyone else's. And that they know that he's very unstable. Now, when the alien first shows up, he is one of the ones to see it several times. He sees it like 3 times, twice of which he survives. They put him in a straitjacket. He's considered crazy by other murderers. He's considered just unstable in general, and they leave him in that straitjacket for an amount of time. He is able to bribe his way out of the straitjacket and then proceeds to murder the person guarding him, make his way down to where they contain the alien, killed that guard there, and then released the alien. He referred to the alien as the dragon and believed it was speaking to him. I believe whatever he had got significantly worse whenever he saw the alien, particularly when it killed 2 of his friends. Well, he considered them friends anyway. He's just a generally unstable being. He's one of the ones that would go off into the abandoned facility alone. None of the others did that. He would. He would find cigarettes, various other things, and he would bribe people with them. That's how he got out. He basically lets the alien kill him because he believes it's speaking to him. And it's probably the best end for him, honestly. It was rather quick, considering what he did. All in all, the residents of Fury 161 and Ripley have some very deep issues. Many of them seem to be coping. Many of them seem fine. A few of them are a little unhinged, and then there's Golic. Now, the prison itself is a horrible, deplorable place. It dueled as a lead factory for a while, until they closed it down. All the prisoners on Fury 161 chose to stay because of their religion. So there is some element to reformation in them. Thank you for your time, and my name has been Hayden Russell. Have a good day.